Hey, what's up you guys? This is Josh here again with another video. Today, something I want to talk about is Plastidip. Now, if you're like me, you like to experiment with your car a little bit. And what other better way than something that is not permanent, so why not Plastidip? Well, with Plastidip, there are some pros and some cons. Some of the pros I would suggest is actually I would use it on rims. For one reason, it looks good, and two, it seems to hold a lot better on rims than any other part of your car. Now, some of the cons. Now, if you're like me, you've tried doing it on pieces of the actual body of the car, like the hood, and maybe the spoiler, or the trunk lid, or whatever, but the past couple of times that I've tried using it, it has turned out really bad, and I don't know if that's because I did not do it correctly, or the surface I was spraying it on wasn't clean enough, or what. But one time I tried painting it on my hood, and at one point it started getting some rock chips in it, so I started peeling it off because it looked bad, and it ended up actually tearing the clear coat straight off of the paint of the hood. So that is currently why my hood, as you can see right here, is black. Now, all I did was spray can this thing black, so it may not look the best, but it sure as hell is a lot better than red paint with clear coat being peeled off of it. Another experiment I tried, which is also another con, this horrid, ugly, peeling Plastidip job on this spoiler. Now, the problem I have with Plastidip is that if it's not done right, then I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Yeah, it has like cracked up and dried, and it's like literally when you try peeling it off, it's just not, it's not possible. So I've looked into some ways to try to get this stuff off that doesn't involve me picking away piece by piece for hours on hand. This stuff right here is the answer to all of your problems. I even started, and just to see if it worked, I actually sprayed some and washed it away, and it took all of this stuff right off. Like, I mean, after you just clean it up with some soapy water, I mean, this stuff is like smooth down to the paint and shiny again. This stuff right here I actually picked up at Walmart for like under 10 bucks. It really only costed me like $7 and some change, so it's really not that expensive. You can get it just about anywhere. I didn't get the automotive purpose one, so I've actually heard that the automotive specific one works better than the all-purpose one. So if you can find that, definitely get that one instead. I decided to get the Gugon instead of, like, there's other brands that are like Plastidip specific to get rid of Plastidip, but this stuff in my opinion works just as good. So I say, you know, if you can get away with it on a budget, then why not? The only thing you guys need for this is, of course, this Gugon, some soapy water, microfiber towel, and if you really want to, a brush. I mean, at Walmart you can get like a set of 3 microfiber towels for like literally 99 cents, and I got this brush at Walmart for like $1, so it's really not that expensive of stuff. It really only costs you about $10 to do this. So if you're like me, you want to do the job completely. So what I did when I painted this thing with Plastidip black, I took the entire spoiler off and made sure that I actually got underneath it. So to take all this stuff off, I'm actually going to have to take the whole spoiler back off and take all the Plastidip off completely. So I'm going to show you guys how to take the spoiler off real quick. First thing you guys are going to need definitely is a Phillips head screwdriver, because you're going to have to take off these little push pin screw things and the back of this little mat area, and I believe there's 4 of them. So yeah, take those off first, and it'll let you be able to see the 2mm bolts that you'll have to take off to take the spoiler off itself. Alright, so once you guys got those screws taken out, this little mat piece should just fold down, and the bolts that you're gonna need to take off are this one. There's one exactly on the opposite side right here, and if you can see that one and another one right there. And I believe they're all 10mm sizes, and you're gonna need an extension to get back there, otherwise you're gonna have a really tough time. Alright, so once you guys got those screws off and those bolts out, the next thing you want to do is make sure that you disconnect the third brake light from the spoiler, because if you don't, you could risk damaging the spoiler itself, and we would all not like that to happen. So this right here is the third brake light. Just pull this little tab right here and it'll release right out of it, just like that. Alright, so the next thing you guys want to do is shut your trunk. So now that you shut your trunk, it'll give you a little bit better leverage so you can be able to pop these the spoiler off, because it is held in actually by some little plastic locking tabs, I guess. But don't be afraid to give it a little bit of force, just because you're going to need to pry this thing off. And just like that, spoiler pops right out. Alright, so here's your brake light line. Make sure it'll come through that hole, so that's where you have to stick it back through when you put the spoiler back on. Man, this thing is filthy. I need to clean this thing out. And there you guys can see where I've had tried to spray all this Plastidip, and it just looks god awful. I mean, I don't even know what happened when I applied this stuff, you guys, but it turned out horribly. So I'm pretty excited about having to take this stuff off today. So I just decided to move this into a less windy room, and have more space and have to sit outside in the freaking heat. The weather says it's 87, but man, it feels like it's 100 outside, so we're just gonna do this in here. Alright, so the next thing you want to do is finally get your glue gun. Now, when you apply this stuff, be very generous with it. I mean, don't hold back. The more the better, because it's gonna attack this stuff even more aggressively than you do with a lighter coat. So be heavy and be generous with your coats. Alright, so right now I got this thing like soaking wet with this stuff. So after you've sprayed all that you want on there and you think it's a good heavy enough coat, just let it sit there for about 5 minutes to really let that glue gun do its job, and then we'll head on to the next step after that. Alright, so it's been about 5 minutes. The next thing you want to do is grab your brush. And I'm wearing gloves just because I don't want to get any of this glue gun on my hands. That's really oily, and I don't know if it's bad for your skin or not, so just gonna wear some gloves just to sort of protect my hands. I know they probably won't do the best job. I'll probably recommend like rubber latex gloves, just disposable ones you can probably get for a couple dollars at the store. But basically what you're gonna do is take your brush and just scrub everywhere that you've sprayed with this glue gun stuff to kind of break it up. And then after that, I'll show you guys the next step. So I just finished basically scrubbing down all of the stuff on the first coat, and already this stuff is like completely gone. It's just dirty. Besides maybe like this spot right here that I couldn't get off. That's pretty much it. All this stuff has been broken up and taken off. Now, after the first time you guys do this, if there's still spots like this that you can't get off, apply, you know, some more of the glue gun. Let it sit a little bit longer, and then come back to it and see if you can get it off until you get all this stuff off. Alright, so I got my spot off, went over it one more time with some of the glue gun and the brush, and we're gonna head on to the next step, and that is washing it off. So like I said, get your microfiber towel and some soapy water, and just get it nice and wet, and take it over here and literally start washing it off. And man, that's looking a whole lot better already. And just really work it in there, you guys. Take your time. to wash all that glue gun off, get it nice and shiny and clean. So I'm gonna speed up this process a little bit. Guys, so the last step of all this, and as you can see, man, this thing is already looking a million times better. I got all the stuff off finally, and the last step you're gonna want to do is just rinse this thing off and get all that other oily glue gun off and have it all cleaned up. So let's do that real quick. Alright, you guys, after all that, look how clean this thing is, man. You wouldn't even ever tell there was a garbage Plastidip on there in the first place. I mean, this thing, even down to the fourth taillight, the third taillight, man. I mean, clean. Alright, now after all that, if there are some spots out here that you couldn't see from before, like just minor things, kind of like this, you know, this stuff's just rubbing right away actually. You can go over it again, you know, just with a microfiber towel or with your brush again, or just whatever. I'm not even sure what that is actually. It may not even be Plastidip. Anyways, like I said, this thing is just completely clean now, man. I mean, the last thing you want to do, you know, get you either a clean microfiber towel or some paper towels, just whatever you have, and dry this thing off, and then we can get back to putting this thing back on the car. Alright, you guys, back out here to Project Gogeta. Just got this thing finished, so we're gonna put it back on. And remember, when you go to put this thing back on, make sure that you get this third brake light and put it back through the hole leading into the trunk. Alright, now this thing will basically just go on the same way that you took it off. Alright, just make sure you put it back on the same way that you took it off. Line all these little pins back up with their holes and push it back in. So once you guys got this thing's clips popped back into it, next thing you want to do is go back into the trunk and start putting all these bolts back in place. Alright, you guys, so after you got all your bolts and screws back in, next thing you want to do is make sure that you reconnect the third brake light back into its socket, just like that. Then next thing you want to do is put your cargo mat trunk thing back into place. And to me, this was one of the more irritating parts of doing this, was actually just putting these things back in, because as you can see, they're kind of like, when you put the screw into it, you know, they'll expand to make them stay into these little rivets. But to put them back in, you have to like compress these things back closer in together just so they fit back into these, where is it? Yeah, back into these little rivet holes right here. So this might take two hands to do, so I'm just gonna put the camera down and then come back when I got them all in. Alright, so I got all these little rivets back into place, and basically guys, that's it. All done. Now, this thing is looking pretty freaking clean, if I do say so myself. You guys, that's the end for this video. I hope this helps some of you guys out who have been having problems with Plastidip kind of like this. Please make sure to give this video a like. Check out my other video if you guys are interested in anything that has to do with K24, K20 Frankenstein build. I got some need to knows on that. And subscribe. Till the next video, you guys. Peace.